Oh, I forgot to put the section on here. I'll just write it on here. It's still 1-4. But it's like, what, the third time we've done section 1-4? And we'll probably take one more day after this to do it, but that's all right. What we're going to do is we're going to do some more factoring. This whole section is about factoring. And we're going to factor perfect squares. And I'll show you what a perfect square is. That's supposed to be E. Perfect square trinomials. So it's still trinomials, but these are perfect squares. And these, I'll show you what a perfect square is. You know how I've always worked backwards every time we've done one of these trinomial lessons? You know, I start with multiplication first, and then we go back to the factoring. That's what I'm going to do here. So this right there would be considered a perfect square. Okay, it's not really a trinomial right now, but when I multiply it out, it will be a trinomial. Do you remember doing this? Now look, we had a quiz, and I thought I made it really, really clear, but some people weren't listening. I thought I made it really clear that you cannot distribute exponents, right? It's not x squared plus 3 squared, right? Didn't I make a big deal about that when I taught it? Yeah, I did, but still, not just one, but I think a couple, 3 people actually went x squared plus 3 squared and wrote that down for your answer. You can't do that. You got to listen, okay? I'm trying to help you out. It's not me against you, right? We're together. We're working together on this. So I want you to listen and pay attention to what we have to do here. When you square something, what do? You multiply it by itself. So make sure when you see a square that you do this, all right? And we're going to do FOIL method, aren't we? Let's put it right underneath there. So first is x squared. Outside is 3x, right? And inside is what? 3x. Because look, they're both exactly the same. So that 3x and this 3x is going to be both exactly the same, right? So it's 3x plus 3x, which is 6x. Plus, the last is 9. Let's do another one. Let's put a minus in here, and let's do another number too. Just want to establish a little pattern here. And I think if we just do 2 of them, that's enough to establish a pattern. So, first thing we do is we write down the 2 separate parentheses first. And then we can go ahead and distribute. So this is going to be x squared. Now watch, it's minus 5x minus 5x. They're the same thing, right? Isn't it like going 2 times minus 5x, right? And it going like right here, 3x plus 3x. Isn't it like 2 times 3x, right? Because you're doing them twice. Okay, that's a big hint for you. So x squared, what's this going to be? Minus what? 10x. And then the last is plus 25. Okay, I want you to see a little pattern here. Look at this and look at this. Now, how did you get the 9 from this thing right here? What, the 9?
Oh, 3 times.
Yeah, you went 3 times 3. You multiplied by itself to get this, didn't you? Now, how did you get this middle one from this stuff right here? You took that 3 and you did what? Okay, you added it to itself, but what's a little bit easier than adding it to itself? Just multiplying it by what? 2. You just doubled it, right? So this was doubled to go here. Everybody see that? Look at this. Same thing, isn't it? Do you see the pattern? You got the last one just by multiplying it by itself, but look at this. You got the middle one by doing what? By doubling it, right? But what are we going to do? We're doing factoring, aren't we? We're trying to factor stuff. So what we want to do is we want to go from this to this, all right? Everybody see that? What's that? It only works, right, it works for a perfect square. And it's, is that what you mean by the numbers the same, like this one and this one are the same? Is that what you mean? Yeah. So watch. First of all, you got to recognize if it's a perfect square. Look at it. This one right here, actually, I should have shown you something else. Let's look at another pattern. I mean, that was a good pattern to see, but I want you to see another pattern. Watch, if we take 9, how did we get back to that 3? We took the square root of it, didn't we? Okay, so if I take this, wait a minute, let me think this out. Yeah, if we take the square root of this, it's what? 3. And if you double it, you get 6. Does it work here? Yeah, take the square root of that, which is 5, you double it, and you get that. Do you see that pattern? So that's what we're going to do. That's the pattern to see if you have a perfect square trinomial. Okay, you guys watching?
The end is square rooting it and then adding.
Right, you got to be able to take the square root of this. Okay, and once you take the square root of this, if you double it, that should be that middle number right there. Okay, if I take the square root of this, okay, and I double it, that's what that number should be right there. Make sense? So that's one way to find out if it's a perfect square or not. They always start off with an example that I think that's a little too... Let me find... Well, I'll just make an easy one up, and then we'll do one of the ones that they give you. Okay? So let's see if I can do this. X squared plus 12x plus 30. First of all, let's take a look at this. Is this a perfect square? Is this a perfect square trinomial? Yep. Because something's being squared to give you this and this, right? Okay. So what's the square root of this? Or what's being squared to give you this? 6. If you double 6, you get 12. And there's a 12 right there, isn't it? Now, if this was a 13, would this be a perfect square? No, it wouldn't. Okay. But since it fits that pattern, it's a perfect square. Once you realize it's a perfect square, then it's really easy. All right. So what do? We make it into a perfect square. And what times what is x squared? X. What times what is 36? 6. What's your sign right there? So that's what's going to be there. And there it is. And that's a perfect square. It is easy. Everybody see that? You guys are watching, right? You guys are doing too much talking. I don't think you're getting all this. 2 over there. Okay? We'll do another one. Okay? Well, let's just explain this real quick one more time. Is it a perfect square? Are you squaring something to get your end terms? Yeah, you're squaring x to get x squared, aren't you? Because x times x is x squared. 6 times 6. 6 squared is 36, isn't it? Once you realize that something is being squared to get this and something is being squared to get this, okay, then you can see if your middle term works. So let's take the square root of this, which is 6, right? Square root of 36 is 6. If you double it, that's 12, isn't it? Okay, so that's the work we did just to realize that it's one of our perfect squares. Okay, once you realize it's that pattern for a perfect square, then you can factor it. And it's really easy to factor. Just take the square root of that, which is x, take the square root of that, which is 6, put it in parentheses, put a square root on the outside, and you're good to go. Always take this sign. That's always going to be your sign right there. Okay, let's do one. I think we have time to do one. I was going to try to do another type, but took too much time telling stories and chasing down spiders. So, all right, look at this. First of all, we got to figure out, is this a perfect square? Are you squaring something to get 9m squared?
Yes.
Sure, you're squaring a 3 to get 9, and you're squaring an m to get m squared, right? Okay, what about the n term over here? Are you squaring a number to get 4?
Yes.
What are you squaring? 2 to get this, okay? Now, if we're squaring 2, right, so the square root of this is, oh, you know what? What we're going to do is this. If you take the square root of that, you get 3m, right? If you take the square root of that, you get 2. If you multiply them together, see when you have a coefficient out in front of here, it's a little bit different. So if I multiply them together, what do I get? 6m, and I double it, and I get what? 12m. So it does work. So watch the factoring. So what goes here? 3m. What goes here? 2. What's your sign always going to be? It's always going to be that one. There it is. You factored it. It's actually kind of easy after you realize that it's a perfect square, isn't it? Okay? I'll give you a worksheet on Monday. We'll do some more. Okay? We'll probably finish up section 1-4, and I'll give you a worksheet on Monday, so no homework. Okay?
Will the following students please come to the office?